I think one of the things that I love the most is that history of creativity. It's always kind of been a place that has been wrestling with what's the next thing. As I understand it, and obviously I wasn't even in Rochester at that time, but it was one of the earliest Lutheran churches in the area that had a contemporary worship service. And it's really interesting to see some of the things that we do now as we're continuing to explore what's next for this congregation, that none of those things would have been possible if it hadn't been for the creativity that was here long before that. It's definitely something that's baked into the culture around here in a lot of ways.
Funny to me. One of the things that we've done is Sandbox Cooperative, and we are building an audience of people, not just here at Gloria Dei or in Rochester, but I mean nationally. We have people, and internationally, we have people listening from all over the world, which is kind of a weird thing, and all over the country. And we have people checking in with us, and it's really just a fascinating project. But it's about a ministry that just doesn't get to stay here, and we get to explore these questions and doubts and the mystery of God's presence in our world together through a podcast. That's one way. We have Julie Stevens, who was our worship and music director, and now she is director of contemplative practices. And so she's doing wonderful work trying to help people explore their inner life and develop an outreach ministry through that goes way beyond the walls of this place. People who are interacting with her work are people who, many of whom have never walked through the doors of Gloria Dei, and that's just so exciting. We have, certainly we have our different ways that we explore doing worship together. We have, our community garden. I don't know if you would add, what else you would add to the list here. I'm totally missing things, but it's just an ongoing process of trying to say, what are we doing now, and what might God be calling us to do next? And what is God already doing, and how can we join in that work? A phrase that we use around here a lot is, we got to figure out the dance. Because we're going to be coming in with new roles and new things and new initiatives, and then that bumps up against ways that we used to do things, so we have to refigure out the dance. And then we do that for a while, and it works, and then it doesn't work anymore, and then we have to figure out the dance again.
But I also don't think that we get anywhere without doing that. You can't just keep hammering home the things that we know aren't working, hoping that somehow they'll start working. You have to enter into a space where it's a little bit challenging, and it's hard work, and it's not easy. I mean, there's lots of days where any one of us goes home and it's just like, I'm done. I can't handle this. And for some reason, we keep coming back the next day and trying to figure it out. And I think I don't know why that is, but I think that's what makes this congregation and our staff that's gathered unique, is that we keep coming back and we keep being willing to enter into it. I don't know why. I can't figure that out, but we keep doing it. We keep showing up.
Yeah. There's a culture of generosity on the part of the congregation that says, "Hey, let's give it a shot, try," and when you wake up again tomorrow, try it again. Mm-hmm. The other thing is
the assumption that the thing is broken doesn't mean that every piece of it's broken. It doesn't mean that the whole thing needs to go away, right? There's what I think that means is that there's value in evaluating something. There's value in asking the question about it and saying, does this meet kind of in our case, does this meet our insights? Does this help people understand that they have access to this abundant life now, and that the questions that they're asking are valuable? And if it does, then we still want to do it. And if it doesn't, then how can we make it fit? How can we make that thing where people are connecting with each other be more about what this community is about? Help people connect with their own faith journey a little differently. If they're not connecting, we want to help them connect. It's not a matter of wanting to get rid of something for the sake of getting rid of something, and we aren't trying to be different for the sake of being different. Trying to be different because if the thing is working, we want to find out what that solution is, and I think that's a pretty important distinction. I think
something could fail, but not even be that far off. And so, oh, I bet if we adapted like this instead. An example of this. When we started Epic 1-8, our contemporary alternative, different, kind of, I don't know what we call it, whatever the language is, we were having families come and set the table for communion, and we couldn't find enough families all the time who would sign up, and it was just kind of awkward and strange. And at one point, we just said, hey, kids, why don't you go back there and grab the elements for communion and bring them forward. And there was this mad rush of kids to the back, and they come and they set the table, and they do it with care and love and devotion. So every week we have this parade of kids coming forward and setting the table for communion, and it was gold. It was wonderful. So the failure of how we chose to do communion before and didn't quite work, and we were kind of hearing, families not wanting to be bothered with stuff. But then when we changed it a little bit, then it worked, and it's become a hallmark of who we are in this worship setting. And that's a small example, but there are larger examples and times when we've done that as well.
So I think no matter what we think we want to do or accomplish in our congregations and in our work and in our lives and anywhere, I think the reality is that it's all going to change. The things that we think are going to stay the same, as soon as we get too attached to them, it's going to be different. That's just how things work. And I think one of the things that we've learned really well around here is how this congregation changes.